Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another garden update slash this and that video. And the first thing I'm going to start with is a little tour of the West End herb garden, and that video was shot just a few minutes ago, so I'll put that right here. Okay, so quick walkthrough of my West Side herb garden. So right there is my barter box that Patrick has a video on. It's where we sell our eggs, colloidal silver, and whatnot. So feverfew, horseradish, sage, got rosemary back in there, more horseradish, more feverfew. This is my peppermint. This patch here of peppermint isn't as big as it used to be, but it's not bad. I get most of my peppermint actually from the front south-facing garden. Some woolly lambs here. This is my smaller elderberry that I got for the pollinizer for the other two. My lavender, this is where I'm shooting this today, mojito mint and oregano, is I'm going to come out here and cut all of these flowers off, and I'm going to cut the plant way back and hopefully get more flowers this year. I got some lemon balm. This time of year the lemon balm starts to slow down, at least over here, and it's probably because one reason is that the elderberries, the other two, still got a long ways to go. Remember, if you saw my earlier videos from the garden, I had cut these down to here. Next year I'm going to cut them down to just a couple of feet. And anyway, I see this is going to probably get up past the roof line like they always seem to do. And this is my old lavender, and see the last couple years I have not been able to keep up on it, and I need to do some serious work on it. It looks real thin because I got in there and took a whole bunch out. And then I'm going to, once these get a little more mature, these flowers, I'm going to hack this way back and see what happens to it. Because it's just been, last year was just so crazy. There was a lot of things that went unkempt. And I need to deal with this white rose. I actually just pulled a bunch of roses off of there to dehydrate. There's the other elderberry, some more sage, some more feverfew, catnip, and my rose, which is really starting to look, I didn't really notice how bad it was starting to get. So it's got that fungus, but thankfully I was talking to my neighbor Natasha yesterday, and I didn't realize that neem oil, which I have a bunch of, is actually good for killing the fungus that you get on roses. So I'm going to be mixing some up today and spraying that on there. Thankfully my flowers are not affected. In fact, I just picked a bunch off of here just a little bit ago to put on the dehydrator, as you'll see in the rest of this video. So I got a marshmallow randomly coming up there. It must be from, because I had it growing here before. And there's some more marshmallow on the other end that I didn't say. But anyway, I pulled it up. But if you leave any little chunk of root, it'll start growing again. This is a currant I got from my neighbor. And then I'll just come around and just do a part of this little skinny section of garden. And another currant there. And then my oldest and biggest valerian that we have to use a tripod, otherwise it falls over. When a wind blows, it blows it all over, and it blew over once. I managed to rescue it because the tripod wasn't sitting up sturdy enough. And I'll go over the rest of this strip of garden in a separate video. And now let's get to the this and that, and I'm going to talk about a couple other garden related things towards the end of this video. So one of the first things I wanted to bring up was the white sugar. So I just had a video come out about the sugars that I stock up on. And one of the things I forgot to mention, I don't stock up on a lot of it, and I forgot to mention it for a couple of reasons. And one, it really only gets used in the winter, and it's I don't stock up on a lot of it, but that is the plain white cane sugar. And the reason why is when you have hummingbirds coming around, you should only be giving them white cane sugar, because the minerals in your blonde sugar and any other darker sugars are too much for their tiny little bodies to handle. Just remember, even good beneficial minerals that are good for us, when we get too much of them, they can also be detrimental. Just like me with the thalassemia, I cannot have too much iron or too much iodine. So I have to be very careful with those things. Same applies to the hummingbird. So you should only be giving them plain white sugar. So if you're trying to go more natural, because that was the first thing I did, was thinking, well, if the organic blonde sugar is better for us, because the minerals should be better for the hummingbirds too. but I made sure I looked it up, and I realized, nope, cannot do the blonde cane sugar or any other sugar that is high in minerals. Stick with the white sugar for that. But don't give them beet sugar. Give them the cane sugar. Okay, so a couple other things I wanted to talk about. So you were seeing in that video clip that I showed the rose bushes and the white, and I do dehydrate the white petals too, but mostly do the red ones. I'm sure they're both very similar in benefits, but I always think that something that is deeper in color has more benefits to it. But you know, that's usually when you're talking fruits and stuff. When you think about yarrow, the best yarrow is the wild yarrow, and that's the white one. That's the one that's highest in medicinal properties. So it's probably not any different, but the red is just prettier anyway. So anyway, I did get those on my dehydrator. I had another rack that I did yesterday. So I'm so happy that I'm having my rose petals coming in, because I was down to just this much in this last jar. So what I'm doing is, this is a jar that stays out here, is I'm going to be topping this off first and hopefully getting maybe 2 more jars, quart jars of rose petals, because I go through quite a bit of them in the year. Now, I did do a video on the benefits of rose petals that I'll go ahead and link to down below. It's a couple years old, but since my skin cream is one of my more popular items on the store, that is one of the reasons I go through the rose petals so quickly during the year. Plus, I like to use a bunch of the fresh ones to make the rose petal vinegar for my hair. And I'll throw in other flowers. If I have nasturtium flowers coming in by that time, then definitely I make vinegar for my hair wash with nasturtium flowers, because they are also very excellent for your hair and helping to increase hair growth. But then another thing that I use in my skin cream is the red clover. And so I've been dehydrating up a lot of that, and I wanted to show you a little trick that just dawned on me the other day. When it comes to putting your herbs in your jars and really trying to make the most of your space, most of my herbs, I will put them into wide mouth. But if any of you have bought Patrick's vegetable tampers, which he's out on the store right now, he hasn't had time to do much for the store lately. He's been incredibly busy, which is also why you haven't been seeing videos of us together, because we're both so busy with our own tasks that we have not had time to shoot any videos together. But anyway, so right here I have some red clover, and instead of putting the whole flowers in there, I've been breaking them up to save me space so I can put more in here. And here's one of the other things I've done. Now, this particular tamper Patrick made as a fruit masher for mashing my grapes when I go to make the wine with them. This is bigger than the tamper he makes for the store that you can use for a regular mouth, wide mouth, or whatever. This is why I have to use a wide mouth jar for this. But anyway, I found I can use my tamper to really press those herbs down in there, because before I did that with these, they were up to here, because I had transferred from a pint jar into this quart jar, because any herb that I go through quickly through the year, use a lot of, I'm putting in quart jars, especially since I need my pint jars for my green beans when I start canning them. Anyway, when I first poured it in here, the red clover was up to here, and so then I just took the tamper or the masher and then press them down in there. So if you already have any kind of tamper, it doesn't matter. It can even be the end of a rolling pin if you have a French style rolling pin, and just mash them down there. And that way, even if you don't do this with them first, just go ahead and press them down in there, and then you can fit a lot more in there. And here's the other benefit, is the more you can pack in there, that's the less airspace in there. That means less time vacuum sealing and more likely to stay fresher longer when you do that. And then when I work through my herbs, if I think it's going to be, if I get halfway through the jar and I think it's going to be a while, I'll then transfer it into a pint-sized jar to, to keep it fresher. And then the same thing with the honeysuckle, because this jar is almost full, and so I just took this thing and pressed it down in there. So like I said, this particular one will only work with the wide mouth, but Patrick's regular tampers that can be used for fermenting and so on will fit into either size jar. Oh, and then back here, I wanted to mention this. This is actually a video that it's already scheduled to publish, but it's the one I did using dehydrated rhubarb. And I didn't get a chance to, because I needed to get the video edited, I didn't get a chance to get pictures of it fizzy. It took another day or two longer than usual for the vinegar to turn fizzy, but it is very fizzy right now and doing quite well. And the whole idea of that video, it was an FAQ, was to show that you can indeed use dehydrated fruits or herbs to make a vinegar. It does not have to be fresh. I just don't typically do that. If I'm going to do all the work to dehydrate something, I'm going to use it for something else. And then use the fresh excess produce that's coming in to make the vinegar right then. So that's just normally how I do it. But I've made vinegar out of dehydrated apples before, so I only use older ones. So this rhubarb was from 2013, some of the very first rhubarb I grew, and I dehydrated it up, and since I still have lots of frozen rhubarb from the past 2 years and dehydrated rhubarb, I figured I'd go ahead and finally use up that 2013 one because I kept forgetting it was back there. Now back to some more garden updates. You'll remember in my last This and That video, I was talking about how my blueberries were still green. Normally I'm picking blueberries by the end of May, sometimes early June, but not this late. This year and last year have been the same when it comes to my blueberries because of this weird cold that we've been having. It really slowed my blueberries down. They finally, just about 2-3 days ago of shooting this video, which is actually going to be 2 or 3 days before it publishes, they finally started turning blue, so I started picking them yesterday. And so I do the same thing that I do with the strawberries. I just pick them as they're coming in blue and then put them in a jar and freeze them until and then once I have the jar full, then I'll pack it away in the freezer for longer term. I have actually quite a few currants and blueberries in my freezer from the past 2 years that I still have. In fact, I have some going back farther than that because the blueberries are a more precious item, so I really try to conserve those and only use them for special things. But sometimes when I realize, okay, I've got enough here, I need to start working through them, then I'll start pulling them out and making creamsicles for Patrick out of them. Usually mixing the blueberries with something like rhubarb, because rhubarb mixed with any sweeter fruit is going to help bring that flavor out, and then add that nice little tartness and all that vitamin C. And which, by the way, I did make the honeydew melon creamsicles, and I did shoot a video on that, and it will be coming out in the near future. I'll try to get a picture today so I can insert it in here so you can see what it looked like. I used the stainless steel creamsicle popsicle mold to make them, but I had a lot, so I went ahead and made some in the Zoku because I only have one of the stainless steel popsicle mold sets, and I am thinking I'm going to go ahead and get another one because it seems to be working just great. So anyway, back to the garden again. A couple of other things I wanted to mention. My snow peas are doing great. I've got flowers all over them, and they're still only about half the size as far as the plants goes, as they will be once they get to that point where they're done, because they'll come up and over that arch. Here, I'll show you a quick video clip here from last year, and I love growing them on that arch cattle panel because they'll just keep going, and you got to make sure you kind of thread them through that top so you can be able to reach the snow peas from the bottom, and because otherwise I won't be able to reach them from the top. So I pull them through as they get long enough and just kind of keep threading them through. But so this year, obviously they're not to that point. They're not even near the top. I'm still threading them through the sides. So here's a clip I just took this morning. There's little snow peas growing on there, and I believe by the time this video publishes, which should be Monday morning, I'll be starting to pick the snow peas and then freezing them up, and I'll be doing probably another snow pea related video later on. But if you're curious what I do with my snow peas, I'll go ahead and link it back to last year's video showing how I preserve my snow peas. Oh, and then the other thing that happened is my arnica blew up this year. I mean, blew up. It just went crazy. I planted it, I started it from seed for the first time last year, and it did okay. It started to get a flower, got one little bud, that was it, and it never actually bloomed. But this year it has buds all over it, and yesterday I walked out to see one actually opened up, and it's far bigger than I thought it was going to be. I was surprised. So this is the mountain arnica. So I grow it for the sake of its benefits, used externally for sprains, bruises, and breaks. So that combined with comfrey makes a really good option for a soak or a poultice for such things. I'm always tending to sprain something or break something or whatever. Well, I don't have a lot of broken bones, but I've broken a few toes. And I've had bad sprains on my wrists, fingers, and ankles before from dancing, martial arts, and just living, because That's just me. So anyway, that's why I'm growing it, and I'm really happy to see that. And if all goes well, I might put some seed up on my store this year. It just depends, because I'm going to want to start dehydrating some of those flowers up to save for my own purposes as well. And that's the problem with things like calendula and anything where I'm preserving the flowers for my own personal use. I can't offer you a lot of seed when it comes to that, but we'll see how it goes. I do still have some organic arnica flowers that I had purchased, you know, previously dried. Anyway, I like to keep them on hand for that, because you just never know when somebody's going to sprain or break something, and having that to use as a soak or a poultice is very healing. So yes, so the arnica is doing great. In fact, it's getting taller than I thought it was supposed to be, which is why I planted it in front of the greenhouse, because I didn't want it to get too tall to shade out my tomatoes. And yes, the tomatoes are doing great. I mentioned that last week, getting some little green tomatoes on there, and that's normal for this time of year here. And my Chinese 5-color peppers have started taking off, looking really good. I don't have any flowers yet, but I should start seeing flowers come on them soon. The other 2 peppers I'm growing, like the mini sweet bell peppers and the lemon habanero, they're doing okay. I'm not sure if I'll see anything, but you never know. Once we start getting into our actual hotter time of the year, instead of just having bursts of hot weather and then cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, then that's when those kind of things usually start to take off. So anyway, things are coming along, and eventually I will do a more thorough garden update of, you know, the different sections of the back garden area. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed my garden update and this and that video for the week. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.